Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'd like you to know, first of all, that I'm a pioneer. I was one of the first people in the Middle East to get the Chartered Institute of Marketing Chartered Marketer, and I'm one of the first people to be here with a new method of innovation. You might well wonder what innovation has to do with employer branding, and what I'd like to tell you is that it has a lot to do with it, and your success in innovation could quite closely tie in with how strong your employer branding is. And employer branding would be your reputation as an employer and everything that that is to do with, everybody's opinions and attitudes about you as an employer. As you can see, this logo, this is the Chartered logo from the UK, in case you haven't seen that one before. What you can see on screen here is something very creative that it took about 5 minutes to make, and this is what I call the litmus test. When I start work with a new innovation team, I give them this exercise, and it's really to kind of see how receptive they are to trying something new. And you get great results like this in just about 5 minutes, because with the team I work with Seawa, they were completely up for it, and they were very creative, very fast. Innovation readiness is something that we actually audit for. There's quite a few questions that we would check when we come to an organization, but I would say that some of the things that you see up here would be very, very pertinent to employer branding. People with diverse backgrounds, whether dialogue is encouraged and whether people are encouraged to consider different opinions and different ideas. Creative abrasion, whether there are opportunities for people to come together and be able to work together on new ideas. And are there formal behavior guidelines in place, or do new joiners just turn up and start working? So what I'd like to talk to you now about is great places to work. Fortune brings out a list of the great places to work, and you'll have seen names quite frequently like Apple and PwC. One thing that was interesting was that there's a company called Zappos. Has anyone heard of Zappos? Could I have a show of hands? Just one, okay, two, okay. Zappos is a company which is frequently shown as to be a really great employer brand, and it's a bit like Marmite, you either like it or hate it. And the idea is that if you're happy and you like it, then you fit immediately. And Zappos is quite a success story because it was launched in 1999, and by 2008 they'd turned 1 billion in sales, and they'd come in at number 23 on the Fortune's list for best companies to work for. They did this by maintaining their corporate culture. They maintained their culture rather than looked at the bottom line. And so they've become a very, very important success story for employer branding. And something I thought was fun to tell you was that IKEA did some employer branding, and what they did is in the flat packs, they put an instruction for how to construct your career, and they tucked that into the flat packs, and they were absolutely overwhelmed with people. So again, that's quite a fun thing that ties in with the employer branding. So this is the Zappos, on the right is the Zappos work environment, the sort of bowls of cereal and stuff, but it works for them. So what I'd like to tell you is that we're not in control of the conversation anymore. You can recruit staff and you can put out job descriptions, but you always need to make sure that what you say is actually correct. Otherwise you find people leave very shortly after they join. So when you're interviewing, you know, if parking is a big hassle, you have to be upfront about it. You know, yes, you know, great company, but it is a bit of a hassle to find parking, and at the moment we don't have such a good setup, but in the future they're building more around the corner. So you're encouraged to be very transparent about the work conditions so that when people are recruited, they have the same experience that they're expecting from your adverts and your literature. Now, when I said we're not in control of the conversation, I don't know if you can see at the bottom with the skull and crossbones. I was in Dubai a while ago, and I was looking on Dubizzle, and people were putting up a skull and crossbones logo next to certain companies warning people not to work for them. I don't know if this still happens, but that would definitely put me off. Now, this particular company, I did a search online for the worst companies to work for, and indeed the best. This came up. I've hidden the company name because I didn't think it was appropriate to say it. But if you read it, it basically says perks. It's a fancy office and they pay well. Yeah? And then when you read down, cons, nobody's been there longer than 5 months. The boss is grumpy and people get terminated very quickly at short notice, so there's no job security. Now, you know, you might take that with a pinch of salt, but he's influenced 14 other people who found that helpful. And there's about 18 other reviews that have been done. So the more people who review, because now online you're able to give these comments, you know, the more employers have to think about trying to address some of these situations.